Hey there, educator, and welcome back to another episode of the Make Math Happen podcast. I'm your host, Laneshia, and today I want to talk about how we can be organized for impact. I want to keep it real with you guys, as I try to be all the time. One of the biggest things that I hear from teachers over and over again is how we just don't have enough time. I've had conversations where teachers have literally broken down in tears, overwhelmed, and convinced that there's just not enough time or hours in the day. And I get it because I felt the same way as well. Teaching is heavy, it's layered, there's so many things that we need to be prepared for at any given moment, and the demands just don't stop. But here's the thing that nobody wants to admit. A lot of the time problem that we're having isn't the job itself. It's how we're using the time that we do have. And if you don't get organized, time will keep slipping through your fingers. Okay. So before I get into the big truths that I want to share with you guys today, I want to give you an example of what I mean when I say using the time that we do have. So imagine you're back to school. Let's say it's the beginning of the year. You have some PD sessions going on. You have some time allotted to work in your classrooms. You have some time allotted to prepare your lesson plans. And then obviously there's probably people coming by your classroom checking in with you, right? So what happens is we'll go to these PD meetings and then we'll have some feeling about those PD meetings, right? Those professional development meetings. And we'll feel the urge to let's now talk about our feelings about those meetings. Okay. And so what happens is while we're talking about it, venting or however you want to describe what's happening, we're wasting time. Okay. Now, that is not to say that we're never going to have time when we're talking to our colleagues. We are. But I think what happens is those 5-minute conversations that we think we're having end up being much longer. Much longer. Okay. And another example is it's time for us to work in our classroom. And that perfectionism, that idea or that desire to have everything absolutely perfect really holds us up because we're spending time maybe searching for things, asking people, what should I do in this situation? Or not doing anything. Like you're paralyzed because maybe you don't know what to do. So in this case, this is another instance where we're wasting time. And it's because we are stuck trying to make a decision. Sometimes you just have to commit to a decision. Sometimes you have to commit to things being not so perfect, right? So your classroom may not look like the classroom that you saw online or on the Pinterest board, but if you have a safe environment that welcomes your student, it's good. Like it's sufficient. It's enough. Okay. So don't get caught up trying to get things perfect because that's when we end up losing time. And then days have passed where the only thing we've done is set up our classroom or thought about setting up our classroom or prepared materials for setting up our classroom. And now the kids are coming back and we're not prepared, right? So today I want to talk about those 3 big truths when it comes to organization. Okay. So number one, don't put off what can be done today. And I know we've heard that time and time again throughout our lives, but it is so, so important that we stay true to this. Okay. Number two, stop making things harder than they need to be. Okay. And I know that it's probably like, well, duh. But so many of us are doing that on a regular basis. We are complicating things for various reasons, right? It could be we're wanting things to be perfect, right? But we have to realize that perfection does not exist. Okay. And optimistic bias will have you fooled. So let's just go ahead and dig in. First up, stop pushing everything off until tomorrow or until next week or until the end of the week. Okay. Too many of us treat Thursday or Friday like a marathon planning day. Oh, okay. I'll just wait till Thursday or Friday. You wait, 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 and wait, and then suddenly try to do everything in one sitting, whether that is lessons, your slides, your materials, your copy, the whole deal. And by then, you're tired, you're stressed, and honestly, sometimes the quality isn't what it could be. And on top of that, although you had this plan in your head, okay, I'm going to do everything on Thursday and Friday, there are going to be people around you who are not aware of this plan, who are going to come knocking on that door, who are going to come asking questions, who are going to come needing things. And now, guess what? That time that you set aside on Thursday and Friday has now been shortened because you have other things that have come up. And that is the reality of life. Things are going to always come up. So when we're pushing things off to the last minute, all we're doing is increasing our chances of not being able to get it done. Okay. So instead, you need a rhythm. That daily power hour that I talked to you guys about a couple episodes ago, one non negotiable focused hour every day where you do a little bit at a time. Let's go ahead and dig into that lesson from top to bottom. Okay. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do need to get it done. Okay. Because it's not realistic to feel like you can plan for 5 days in a single city. It's just not, okay? So I've done this myself. I have timed myself because although I'm not a full-time classroom teacher, I'm a multi-classroom leader, which means at any given moment, I may have to go in and support a teacher. I may have to go in and pull a group of students. I just have to be ready to go. So I time myself from top to bottom of a lesson, from me doing the math, right? From me thinking about the questions I was going to ask, connecting it to that goal, thinking about the prior knowledge that I need to activate, and then how would I engage students in discourse? When I did it, it took me about 40 minutes. About 40 minutes. So now I'm thinking about if just planning the lesson, going through the lesson takes me 40 minutes. Now I have 20 minutes to go ahead and look at those slides to see if there's any changes that I need to make, any updates that I need to make. That is, of course, if the curriculum that you're using comes with slides. Okay. So it's about momentum. Okay. So every small step stacks up. And then when Thursday comes, instead of a pile of things on your to-do list, right? A pile of things that you now have to accomplish and check off, and a pile of stress, you've got organized lessons that are ready to teach. I've mentioned on the podcast before about this book that I've read in the past called Atomic Habits by, I think it's James Clear. This book to me was a game changer because he talks a lot about habit stacking. So thinking about things that you're going to naturally do every day and then attach something that you have to do to one of those things. So that either after or before you do the things that you're going to naturally do every day, you place the things that have to get done. That way, it's already in your plan. And then if you attach on that power hour, now you have that focused period of time where you can knock things out, okay? Where you can be prepared. So if you haven't checked out Atomic Habits, I want you to check that out because it really is about productivity. So many people see themselves as either really organized or really not organized at all. And I think in a lot of situations, people are like, well, I am just who I am. Mm, we can make decisions and become just a little bit better, right? And we're not saying, or I'm not saying, you need to completely change who you are in the course of a single day. But one small granular move could really shift your week. It could shift your productivity. It could shift the effectiveness of your instruction. It could shift how you feel inside your body. One little small move. Okay? One little small move. So again, don't put off tomorrow until Thursday, until Friday, what you could do today. Okay. It's about taking small pieces, small chunks, and making things happen as a result of those small things adding up. Okay. So, big truth number two, stop making things harder than they need to be. Stop overcomplicating things, okay? Teachers are notorious for wanting to reinvent the wheel, okay? We build brand new slides, brand new worksheets, brand new activities from scratch when most of the time something already exists that you could adapt in 15 minutes. So why would we want to start from zero when I can start from maybe 50%, right? The things are done. So when I went through that process of going through that lesson, because I knew that that curriculum was not aligned to North Carolina standards, I went ahead and pulled down my unpacking documents. I pulled down my unit guide for my district that kind of outlines that pacing that's going to take place. I pulled down my achievement level descriptors. And if you've never heard of that, achievement level descriptors kind of lay out for you, for your standards, for those objectives, if a student can do this, that is either not proficient, level 3, 4, or 5. So I bring that down as well because that's going to give me an idea of, okay, if today's objective is a student is going to represent proportional relationships in a table, where does that fall? When these students meet this objective, is it something that's setting them up for proficiency or is it already proficiency, right? So having those things available and up so that I can compare it against the tasks that are within that curriculum that, again, I already know is not aligned to my state. Another thing is I'm going to go ahead and pull down the slides if the curriculum offers that, right? If they offer that, I'm going to go ahead and have those slides open because now, as I'm going through that lesson, I am now adjusting the slides. I might be adding something, I might be taking something away, I might be making room to activate that prior knowledge by supplementing a slide in there. So I am working with what I already have. I'm not starting from scratch because now I have just extended the amount of time necessary for me to be prepared. I'm just going to work with what I have. Okay. So your job is already complicated as it is, right? And I know sometimes we think about, oh, well, if I create something of my own, then maybe I can sell it on, a platform or I can share it with colleagues or whatever it is that may be going through our minds. Maybe I'm super creative and I just want to feel the sense of accomplishment for creating something myself. I get it. I get it. But friends, if we're already complaining about time, if we already are feeling overwhelmed with the responsibilities and the obligation that we have to meet in the course of a day, why make it worse? Why make it worse by trying to build something from scratch when I can use and adapt what is already there? Okay, so as you are planning your lessons, right? I don't want you to think about, did I make something new? Because again, I understand there's a sense of accomplishment that goes along with you creating something, with you seeing something that you've created on those desks in front of students or on that whiteboard or on that clear touch or whatever it is that you use to broadcast. There's a sense of accomplishment there, and I get it. But instead of thinking about did you create something brand new, I want you to think about did I make something that works for my kids? Okay. So if you made something that works for your kids, that's going to help them progress to proficiency and then mastery. And you were able to do that by adapting what was already there, then I want you to pat yourself on the back because now you are closer to your goal without burning yourself out. So again, stop making things harder than they need to be. Okay. And number three, big truth number three, optimistic bias will have you fooled. Optimistic bias is that little voice in your head that says, I'll have more time later. My future self will just figure it out. I'm going to have all the questions that I need. I'll remember every idea that I've come up with. It's also, optimistic bias is also, I know this material well enough to teach it to the students. And this is going to be a hard pill to swallow. I know that when we have been teaching for a period of time, I know that when we feel like, oh, we know the math, like I can solve equations but with my eyes closed. Whenever we know something well, right? Sometimes I feel like we overestimate the instruction part of it because knowing something for yourself is completely different from being able to teach it to someone else. Okay. Because your level of understanding, the way you see it in your mind, may not be what that child needs in order for them to understand it. And I think that is a little bit of that optimistic bias that we have is that, okay, I know it, so I'm good. So I'm gonna be able to teach it. Mm-mm, mm-mm. It doesn't always work that way. Another thing is people feel like I can just figure it out and things are gonna be okay. Or, we got a new set of kids in, we're gonna just go with the flow. I don't wanna overcomplicate things. I don't wanna be too stern and we'll be able to figure it out. You always wanna go in with the structure. You always wanna go in tighter Because guess what? When I go in tight, I can loosen up. I can loosen up as the year progresses. But if you start too loose, I'm sorry to tell you, it's going to be very difficult to reel those kids back in. Okay? Students and adults thrive on organization. They thrive on structure. Okay? When your students are in the classroom and they're asking you, what we doing today? What's happening next? What else we got to do? It is because they want the structure, right? And I think sometimes we feel like we'll just figure it out when we get in there. I just want to feel the room and see how it goes. Mm, I don't know. I don't know. That just doesn't feel productive to me. It feels like we're making things a little bit harder than they need to be, and we don't even realize it, right? So this is me telling you to stop making it harder and stop letting optimistic bias keep you in a chokehold, okay? Because being prepared is just better, okay? It's better to have and not need than it is to need and you don't have it and you're not prepared for it, right? So prepare for the challenges that may come up. I shared that last episode, right? So our brain is a beautiful thing, but sometimes it's not as reliable as we think it is. Okay. So we think that because we know how to do something ourselves, that we're just going to think of the way to clearly explain it to students. In a previous episode, I also talked about how we have to be clear and concise with the way that we're teaching, right? Sometimes when we're saying things, we use a lot more words than we need to. Okay. Economy of language is important. With students and their attention spans, if I am explaining something and it's taking 30, 40 words, that's a little too much. So instead, for example, the example I just gave was about solving equations. If I know how to solve equations, okay, that's only one strategy. So what else can I provide students with to make sure that they can grasp solving equations? So those are going to be manipulatives, things that they can physically move around and understand the balance, right, of those expressions on both sides of the equal sign. It's also diagrams. So like your tape diagrams, your hanger diagrams. It is also those so that students can see how what they physically manipulated relates to this image that I've now created, showing them how things are equivalent based on the length of it, right? Or based on the hanger being balanced. And then we're connecting to that more abstract idea, which is the equation. And it's showing those connections across all three. And I think that sometimes our apprehension maybe to being more prepared could be because you don't know how to do those other ways. So again, if you come to an instance where you're teaching a concept and you feel like I know how to do it, I want you to ask yourself a follow-up question. Okay, well, how many ways do I know how to do it? Can I do it in a way that allows students to progress through that concrete, representational, abstract model? Or do I only know one way? If you only know one way, we got to go back to the planning board. We have to go back, okay? Because we can't think that in the moment that you just restating your one way in a different way is going to make a difference. We can't assume that. So let's just be prepared. Okay. Another thing is sometimes we have ideas or we have questions and we think, okay, I'll just remember it. Well, instead of relying on that brain to remember that thing that you had in a split second triggered from who knows what, you might want to have a sticky note with you or a little notebook that you take with you that allows you to jot down the things that come up that you want to have answers to or that you want to research a little bit further because unfortunately that amazing memory that you think you have it's lying to you. Okay, you don't have it. Okay, ideas evaporate, time slips away, and on your way back to your room somebody's going to ask you a question. And when they ask you a question, guess what's going to happen to that question or that idea that you felt like, oh, I'll remember this by the time I get back to my room? It's gone. Okay. So again, I want you to think about how can we prepare just a little bit better? How can we have whatever it is that we need, whether that is the notebook that we're writing ideas on, whether that is those other strategies so that students can grasp it, right? Whatever it is that we need to have in our toolkit to ensure that we are prepared, the better off we're going to be. Another example I'm going to give you, or not example, another rationale I guess I can share with you is if we start our lesson, right? If we start our lesson with with laying out the strategies that I shared with you earlier about solving equations, if I lay it out that way, students' chances of understanding it are going to be greater than if I only prepare to share my way. Nobody gets it. And so now we got to start all the way over and do the other strategies anyway. So I always want to, whenever I'm approaching instruction, I'm approaching instruction from the sense of I want a low floor and a high ceiling. That low floor is going to allow any student, regardless of where they're coming from, the level of understanding that they have, to be able to access that grade level content. And then that high ceiling is going to allow me to hit those achievement level descriptors. It's going to allow me to hit those objectives across that range. Okay. So again, I just want to remind you that, energy and ideas and all these things, they don't magically appear. Okay. And yet we keep believing we'll somehow pull it all together at the last minute. I want to remind you, or I want to share with you that that won't always be the case. Maybe you've had some success where on the spot you've been able to do certain things that you felt like were successful. But I want to ask yourself, who was it successful for? Was it successful for you or was it successful for your students? And could it have been done a different way to maximize or extend that success for the students? Okay. And that's why systems matter. Write ideas down the moment they come, block your time, set reminders, plan intentionally. Optimistic bias tricks you into thinking that you can wing it. Organization saves you from yourself. Okay, so little reality check, a little self-awareness here. A lot of teachers love to point the fingers at the system, the school, the admin, the schedule. And yes, those things are real barriers, right? They do present real challenges, but too often we ignore the wasted moments right in front of us. The time scrolling on social media, chatting about nothing in particular with colleagues, or venting or complaining, staring at the computer, waiting for words to magically appear. Execution is all on you, it's all on us. Okay. So get organized so that your moves make sense. Organization is about self awareness, it's about noticing your own patterns. It's about being honest about your time wasters and deciding to act differently. Here's the bottom line, friends. Organization isn't about being rigid or robotic or type A, as somebody referred to me this week. It's about freedom. It's about clearing the clutter from your brain so you could actually focus on high quality, tier one instruction. It's about trading stress for strategy. So stop putting off what can be done today. Stop making things harder than they need to be, and stop letting optimistic bias run your life. Get yourself a system, a daily power hour, a sticky note habit, a Google Calendar reminder. Plan for the outcome that you want, okay? Plan for the outcome that you want. It may feel uncomfortable, maybe even inconvenient, but your future self will thank you. And more importantly, your students will feel the difference. So I'd love to hear from you. If you have thoughts about today's episode, feel free to hit me up on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. Not while you're supposed to be planning, not during your power hour, okay? But feel free to drop me some comments, or you can email me. Don't forget to join the tribe, the Math Collective, so you can get all the resources that I share with my folks every single week. Until next time, keep making math happen.